Most alpha kings arrive at mating rituals crowned in glory, wrapped in power that makes wolves bow before they think to breathe. But Kieran arrived in mud-stained boots and a borrowed cloak, seeking the one thing his throne couldn't give him, someone who might love him for the man, not the crown. The autumn mating ritual of Elderwood Province was already underway when he slipped through the entrance, just another lonely wolf among hundreds. Laughter and music spilled from the great pavilion. Kieran pulled his hood lower, concealing the distinctive golden eyes that marked him as royalty. Tonight, he was just Kai, a common wolf from the Northern Territories, unremarkable in every way he could manage. 3 years since his mother's death had left him not just an orphan, but a king at 25. 3 years of advisors parading eligible daughters before him, each seeing only the throne. Lord Blackwood's daughter had actually brought a contract to their first meeting. Another had spent an entire dinner discussing optimal heir quantities for succession stability. "You look lost, friend." Kieran turned to find a stocky wolf grinning at him, already deep in his cups. "First time at one of these?" the man continued, clapping Kieran on the shoulder. "Marcus is the name. Come, you can't lurk in shadows all night." Before Kieran could protest, Marcus dragged him toward a group of males near the dancing area, where unmated omegas performed traditional displays. "Fresh meat, boys," Marcus announced. "Says his name is Kai." The group barely glanced at him, focused on a stunning omega with raven hair performing at the center. "That's Celeste," one man sighed. "Third son of a minor lord." Rejected 6 alphas already tonight. "She's waiting for someone with real status," another added. Kieran studied the dancers with detached interest until movement at the edge caught his attention. There, by the servants' table, an omega in a simple gray dress was helping an elderly wolf who'd dropped his walking stick. While others danced for attention, she knelt in the dirt, uncaring that it stained her dress. When she smiled at the old man's thanks, something in Kieran's chest tightened unexpectedly. She had auburn hair that caught torchlight like burnished copper, braided simply down her back. No jewels, no cosmetics. Yet when she laughed at something the elder said, she outshone every decorated omega present. "Who is that?" Kieran asked. Marcus followed his gaze and snorted. "That's Luna." "Forget it, friend. She's different." "Different how?" "She's got healing gifts," Marcus said, lowering his voice. "But she's 23 and never accepted a mate. Rejects everyone, kindly, but still. Some say she's waiting for her true mate. Others think she's touched in the head." The music changed, signaling the approach dance, where alphas could request a dance from any omega. Kieran watched several alphas approach Luna, each walking away with polite refusal. "Your turn to try, Kai," Marcus laughed, shoving him forward. "Go on, might as well get your rejection early." The group laughed as Kieran stumbled forward. He could have caught himself easily, but maintained the charade. As he approached Luna, he deliberately slouched, softening his commanding presence. She was bandaging a young serving girl's burnt hand when he reached her. "There now," Luna murmured to the girl. "Keep it clean, and it'll heal without scarring." "Excuse me," Kieran said softly. Luna looked up, and their eyes met. Forest green clashed with gold, and for a moment, Kieran forgot how to breathe. Something ancient stirred in his chest. His wolf, usually controlled to silence, suddenly surged forward with recognition. Luna's eyes widened slightly, a flush creeping up her neck. Her hand went to a small river stone pendant at her throat, worn smooth, simple, but somehow meaningful. "Can I help you? I was wondering if you might. Would you care to dance?" Behind him, the group erupted in laughter. "Did you see his clothes?" one whispered loudly. "Probably can't even shift properly." Luna's eyes flicked to the mocking group, then back to Kieran. Something shifted in her expression, defiance, perhaps even protection. Then, to everyone's shock, Luna stood and placed her hand in his. "I would be honored." The pavilion fell silent. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through wheat. Luna, who had refused the Baron's son, who had turned down wealthy merchants, had accepted a nobody in muddy boots. As they moved toward the dance floor, Kieran felt the weight of every stare. But with Luna's hand warm in his, none of it mattered. The music began, and for the first time in 3 years, Kieran felt truly seen. Then a commotion erupted near the entrance. Lord Aldrich Ravencrest had arrived, Alpha Prime of the Eastern Territories. His presence changed everything. As his eyes landed on Luna and dismissed Kieran entirely, the king in disguise realized his one night of freedom was about to become much more complicated. "Lady Luna," Aldrich's voice boomed as he approached, completely ignoring Kieran. "I'd hoped to find you here." Luna's hand tightened in Kieran's grip. "Lord Aldrich, I believe this dance is ending." Aldrich's tone made it clear this wasn't a question. "I would claim the next." "The dance has barely begun," Luna replied evenly, "and I've already promised the next 3 to my current partner." Aldrich's gaze finally acknowledged Kieran, scanning him from hood to muddy boots with obvious disdain. "Surely you jest. This vagrant cannot possibly merit 3 dances." The crowd pressed closer, sensing drama. Kieran felt his carefully constructed persona slipping. The Alpha King in him bristled at the insult, his wolf snarling beneath his skin. "Everyone merits kindness, Lord Aldrich," Luna said, her voice carrying clearly. "Or have the Eastern Territories forgotten basic courtesy?" Gasps echoed through the pavilion. An Omega didn't speak to an Alpha Prime that way, especially not in defense of a nobody. Aldrich's face darkened. "You forget yourself, Omega. Your healing gifts don't place you above your station. And your birth doesn't place you above basic decency," Luna shot back. The temperature seemed to drop. Aldrich stepped forward, his alpha presence expanding, pressing down on everyone nearby. Several Omegas whimpered, submitting instinctively to the display of dominance. But Luna didn't bend. She stood straighter, chin lifting in defiance. And Kieran saw the exact moment Aldrich decided to make an example of her. "Perhaps you need reminding of an Omega's proper place," Aldrich snarled, reaching for Luna's arm. Kieran moved without thinking. His hand caught Aldrich's wrist, stopping it mid-reach. The contact sent shockwaves through the crowd. A nobody had dared touch an Alpha Prime. "She said no," Kieran stated quietly, but something in his voice made even distant conversations halt. Aldrich tried to jerk free and found he couldn't. Kieran's grip, despite his slouched posture and common clothes, was iron. For a heartbeat, gold flickered deeper in his eyes, not common gold, but royal gold. "You dare," Aldrich began. "I dare defend a lady's choice," Kieran interrupted, his voice carrying an edge that made several alphas step back instinctively. "Unless Eastern tradition has changed to include forcing Omegas." The accusation hung in the air like a blade. Aldrich's face flushed red. To press now would confirm Kieran's words, but to retreat meant losing face to a supposed vagrant. "What's your name, vagrant?" Aldrich demanded. "Kai," Kieran replied simply. "Just Kai." "Well, just Kai, you've made a grave error tonight." Aldrich's smile was all teeth. "I challenge you. Tomorrow, dawn, we'll see if you can back your interference with strength." The crowd exploded in shocked murmurs. A formal challenge meant combat, potentially to the death. But before Kieran could respond, Luna stepped between them, her presence suddenly filling the space in a way that had nothing to do with physical size. "If you challenge him," she said clearly, "you challenge me as well. After all, I chose him." "You'd bind yourself to this nobody?" Aldrich laughed, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "Risk your reputation for a stranger?" "I've made my choice clear," Luna replied steadily. "Or do you question an Omega's right to choose her companion?" From the shadows near the pavilion's edges, Kieran noticed hooded figures, too still, too watchful to be casual attendees. His instincts prickled a warning. Among them, he caught a glimpse of Lord Blackwood himself, watching with calculating eyes. "The challenge stands," Aldrich announced loudly. "Dawn at the sacred grove. When I win, you'll apologize publicly for your disrespect, Omega. And you," he pointed at Kieran, "will leave these territories forever." "And if Kai wins?" Luna asked. Aldrich's laugh was ugly. "When the vagrant loses, you mean? But fine, if by some miracle he prevails, I'll acknowledge your choice and never approach you again." "Witnessed," called several voices from the crowd, making the challenge binding by pack law. As Aldrich stalked away, the crowd began to disperse, excited chatter filling the night. Most were already placing bets on how quickly Aldrich would destroy the foolish vagrant. "You shouldn't have done that," Kieran said once they were relatively alone. "Neither should you." Luna studied his face, what little she could see beneath the hood. "Aldrich is cruel. He's hurt Omegas before, using his position to avoid consequences. Someone needed to stand against him." "And you think I can?" She tilted her head. "I think you're not what you appear to be, Kai. Your stance, when you stopped him, you've had combat training, extensive training." Kieran's heart raced. He'd let too much slip. "Many wolves train." "Not like that. You moved like my father used to move." Her voice dropped. "He was in the Royal Guard before he died." Her hand went to the Riverstone pendant again, a nervous gesture. "This was his. He gave it to me before his last mission, said it would always show me the truth." Before Kieran could respond, a scream pierced the night. The scream came from the servants' quarters. Luna ran toward it without hesitation, Kieran following. They found a young Omega girl collapsed, her body convulsing, black veins spreading up her neck. "Shadow poison," Luna breathed, dropping to her knees. "Someone's been practicing dark magic." She placed her hands on the girl, golden healing light flowing from her palms. The black veins receded slowly, fighting against her power. "This is a warning," the girl gasped as she came to. "Lord Blackwood," he said, "the vagrant must not fight tomorrow." Kieran's blood ran cold. Blackwood, his own counselor, was here, threatening innocents to stop a simple challenge. Why would he care unless? "Take her inside," Luna commanded other servants who'd gathered. Once they were alone, she turned to Kieran. "Lord Blackwood is the king's chief advisor. Why would he care about a minor challenge?" Before Kieran could answer, 3 hooded figures approached. He tensed, ready to fight, but Luna touched his arm. "Friends of mine," she explained as they drew closer. "They help me with the healing work." The lead figure lowered her hood, revealing an elderly Omega with knowing eyes. "Luna, child, what have you gotten yourself into now?" "Something necessary, Mira." Mira's gaze fixed on Kieran with uncomfortable intensity. She circled him slowly. "The threads of fate are tangling tonight. I see a wolf wearing sheep's clothing. I see a crown hidden in shadow." "Mira sees patterns," Luna explained at Kieran's confused look. "She's been preparing something for tomorrow, something to ensure a fair fight." Mira pulled out 2 vials. One contained silver liquid, moon water, illegal outside royal hands. The other held a clear substance that seemed to shimmer with its own light. "Moon water for poison," she said, handing the first to Luna. "And this," she gave the second vial to Kieran, "is truth's essence. Not magic, but alchemy. It compels honesty when combined with an alpha's command." "That's what Aldrich fears most," the second hooded figure said, lowering her hood to reveal a scarred throat. "The truth about what he's done?" "Sarah speaks from experience," the third figure added, still hooded. 3 Omegas dead in the last 2 years. All accidents during challenges. Luna's hand found Kieran's. "Together, we might expose him." As they led him away from the pavilion, Kieran made a decision. These people deserved honesty, at least part of it. "There's something you should know," he began. "Blackwood isn't just here for the ritual. He's been gathering power, making alliances. If he's involved in tomorrow's challenge, then it's about more than just Aldrich's pride," Luna finished. "You know him. You're connected to the royal court somehow." Kieran nodded carefully. "I served there before I left. I know things about Blackwood that he'd kill to keep secret." "What kind of things?" Sarah asked. "The kind that would see him hanged for treason." Silence fell over the group. Finally, Mira spoke. "Then tomorrow isn't just a challenge, it's an assassination." "Probably," Kieran agreed. "You should all stay away." "I won't have innocent blood on my hands." "With respect," Luna said firmly, touching her Riverstone pendant. "That's not your choice to make." "We stand together, or not at all." They'd reached Mira's cottage at the forest's edge. As they entered, Kieran caught Luna's arm gently. "Why?" he asked. "Why risk yourself for a stranger?" Luna met his gaze steadily. "Because when I looked into your eyes, I saw someone worth saving. Someone who's been carrying the world alone for too long." She touched his cheek gently. "You don't have to be alone anymore." From outside came the sound of howling, not normal wolves, but something darker. Shadow wolves, drawn to dark magic and death. "They're coming," Mira said grimly. "Blackwood isn't waiting for tomorrow." The shadow wolves struck fast. 3 massive beasts burst through the windows, eyes glowing red, corrupted and controlled. Kieran's careful control shattered. The partial shift was instant, claws extending, strength flooding his limbs. He caught the first wolf mid-leap, using its momentum to hurl it into the wall with crushing force. The second went for Luna. Kieran's vision went red. A snarl tore from his throat that made everyone freeze. It wasn't the sound of a common wolf. It was the sound of an alpha king. He tore through the remaining wolves with lethal precision. When the last fell, silence descended. Kieran stood among the corpses, blood dripping from his claws. "No common wolf fights like that," Sarah breathed. Luna stepped forward, ignoring the blood. She reached up and pushed back his hood. Golden eyes met forest green, and recognition dawned in her face. "You're him," she whispered. her hand going to her pendant, which now glowed faintly. Your king, Kieran Silverthrone. Kieran stood frozen as his carefully constructed disguise crumbled. Sarah had dropped to one knee instantly. The hooded figure stumbled backward. Only Mira remained unsurprised, as if she'd known all along. Your Majesty, Sarah whispered, and the title sounded like an accusation. Don't! The word tore from Kieran's throat. Please don't! Luna's hand had fallen from his face, her river stone pendant still glowing with truth's recognition. You lied to me. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell the whole truth. Semantics. Her green eyes blazed with hurt. You let me defend you. Let me think you were some vagrant who needed protection. Was this amusing for you? No. He reached for her, but she stepped back. When you took my hand, when you chose me thinking I was nobody, it was the first real choice anyone's made about me in 3 years. Not the crown, not the power. Just me. But it wasn't you, Luna shot back. It was Kai. And Kai doesn't exist. Another howl echoed outside, more shadow wolves approaching. This discussion needs to wait, Mira said sharply. Blackwood knows you're here, Your Majesty. He's been watching all along. As if summoned, the door exploded. Lord Blackwood himself entered, flanked by corrupt guards who'd been stationed around the pavilion all along. Your Majesty, Blackwood said with mock courtesy. Imagine my surprise when I saw you here, playing commoner. Blackwood. Kieran shifted, positioning himself between the Lord and the others. Mother never trusted you. Your mother was weak, clinging to old traditions while the world changed. You're just like her, hiding among commoners instead of ruling. You mean ruling through fear and corruption? Blackwood smiled coldly. After your tragic death tonight, killed by Omega radicals who lured you here, I'll ensure the kingdom is ruled properly. My nephew will make an excellent puppet king. Aldrich is your nephew, Luna gasped, understanding flooding her face. The murdered Omegas, the challenges, it was all you. A necessity, Blackwood said dismissively. Omegas were getting ideas above their station. But enough talk. Dark magic gathered around his hands, corruption that reeked of shadow poison. But before he could strike, Luna acted. She shattered the moon water vial on the floor. Silver light exploded through the cottage, burning away the dark magic. In the confusion, she pressed the truth essence vial into Kieran's hand. For tomorrow, she whispered, if we survive tonight. The corrupt guards advanced, but found their way blocked. Wolves from the forest emerged, not shadow wolves, but real ones. Packless Omegas, forgotten ones, those who'd been watching and waiting. You think you own this kingdom? Luna said, standing beside Kieran. But power built on fear is no power at all. Blackwood retreated, his guards overwhelmed by sheer numbers. This isn't over, he snarled. Tomorrow, when my nephew kills your king, you'll all pay. As he vanished into the night, Kieran turned to the assembled wolves. Some had recognized him, others simply sensed the truth. I've failed you, he said simply. I hid in my grief while corruption festered. But tomorrow, that changes. Tomorrow you could die, Luna said quietly. Then I die as myself, not hiding behind a false name. He looked at her, golden eyes pleading. Can you forgive me? Luna was silent for a long moment, then she took his hand. I chose Kai because I saw who he really was, A man who defended an Omega's right to choose, who stood against injustice even when it cost him. That man is still you, crown or no crown. Your Majesty, Sarah spoke up, will stand with you tomorrow. All of us. I can't ask that. You're not asking, Luna interrupted. We're choosing. Dawn was approaching. Soon, the challenge would begin. Kieran looked at the truth essence vial in his hand, then at the wolves gathered around him, not subjects bowing to a king, but people choosing to stand with him. Then, we face this together, he said. As they prepared for the sacred grove, Kieran caught Luna alone for a moment. The pendant, he said, gesturing to her riverstone. It really shows truth. It was my father's, she said softly. He told me it would help me recognize what matters. Tonight it showed me that Kai and Kieran are the same person, someone worth standing beside. After tomorrow, if we survive, everything changes. Good, Luna said simply. Change is overdue. They walked toward the sacred grove as the first light of dawn touched the sky. Behind them followed not an army but something more powerful, wolves who'd chosen to stand for truth. In his hand, Kieran held the vial that would expose Aldrich's crimes. At his side walked an Omega who'd seen through every disguise to the man beneath. The challenge ahead would determine not just his fate, but the kingdom's future. The sacred grove filled with witnesses as dawn broke fully. Word had spread through the night. Something momentous would happen here. The crowd was massive, nobles and commoners alike drawn by rumors and whispers. Aldrich waited in the grove's center, stripped to fighting leathers, confident in victory. Beside him stood Blackwood, playing the concerned uncle, though Kieran could see the calculation in his eyes. Before we begin, Aldrich announced, I invoke the old law. The challenged may choose weapons or claws. Claws, Kieran said simply. Luna touched his arm as they entered the circle. Remember, she whispered, the truth is your greatest weapon. The ritual words were spoken. The circle was marked. Aldrich shifted partially, claws extended, muscles rippling with enhanced strength, a poisoned needle hidden in his palm just as Sarah had warned. Kieran remained human in appearance, only extending his claws, the truth essence vial concealed in his grip. Too scared to shift properly? Aldrich taunted, circling. This will be even easier than... Kieran moved, not with the fumbling uncertainty of Kai the vagrant, but with the controlled precision of a king who'd trained since childhood. His claw strike missed Aldrich's throat by inches, intentionally. Aldrich stumbled back, shocked. The crowd murmured. Lucky strike, Aldrich snarled, attacking in earnest. What followed was a deadly dance. Kieran stayed defensive, dodging, deflecting, making Aldrich work. To the crowd, it looked like a desperate vagrant barely surviving. Only those with trained eyes could see the truth. Kieran was controlling the entire fight. 5 minutes in, Aldrich was panting, frustrated. His attacks became wilder. Finally, he overextended, going for a killing blow to Kieran's heart. Kieran let him come. At the last second, he twisted, taking the poisoned needle in his shoulder, deep enough to wound, shallow enough to survive. But more importantly, it brought Aldrich close enough. Kieran shattered the truth essence vial against Aldrich's neck, the liquid seeping into a small cut from his claw. Tell them, Kieran commanded, his Alpha King voice emerging fully. Tell them about the Omegas you murdered. Aldrich tried to resist, but truth essence combined with an Alpha King's command was unbreakable. I killed them, all of them. Uncle Blackwood ordered it. said they were getting too bold, needed reminding of their place. The crowd erupted. Omegas cried out in rage and grief. Alphas who'd lost daughters, sisters, friends surged forward. "And why did Blackwood want me dead?" Kieran pressed, knowing he was revealing himself but no longer caring. "Because you're the king." Aldrich's confession rang across the grove. "King Kieran Silverthrone, Uncle knew you'd never approve of what we'd done." Silence fell, like a hammer blow. Every eye turned to Kieran as he straightened slowly, letting his hood fall back completely. Golden eyes, the distinctive royal gold, swept over the assembled crowd. "Yes," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the grove. "I am Kieran Silverthrone, and I've been a fool." Some wolves dropped to their knees, others stood frozen in shock. "You think this changes anything?" Blackwood's voice rang out as he stepped forward, dark magic crackling around him. "A king who hides among commoners? Who abandons his throne to play vagrant? You're not fit to rule." "You're right," Kieran said, surprising everyone. "I haven't been fit to rule. I hid in my palace, in my grief, and let you poison my kingdom. But that changes today." Black veins were spreading from the poisoned wound. Aldrich had delivered enough poison to kill any normal wolf. Kieran swayed but remained standing. "You're dying," Blackwood laughed. "The poison is already in your heart." Luna stepped forward, pushing through the crowd. "Then we have work to do." She placed her hands on his wound, golden healing light flowing from her palms. But this wasn't ordinary healing. As the crowd watched, her light merged with his, creating something new, silver and gold intertwined. "What is this?" Blackwood demanded. "Something you could never understand," Luna said, her voice carrying power. "A bond freely chosen, a connection that transcends rank." The healing light pulsed, and for a moment everyone in the grove felt it, the truth of connection between all wolves, regardless of station. The poison in Kieran's system fought against the combined power of king and healer, Omega and Alpha united. "Impossible!" Blackwood snarled, raising his hands to strike with dark magic. But the corrupt guards he'd counted on didn't move. They'd heard Aldrich's confession, felt the truth of the bond. One by one, they stepped aside. "You have no power here," Kieran said, standing strong despite the poison still burning in his veins. "Power built on fear dies with the truth." Blackwood looked around wildly, finding himself surrounded by angry citizens, not just Omegas, but Alphas who'd been deceived, Betas who'd lost friends, all united in demand for justice. "Seize him!" Kieran commanded, and this time the guards obeyed their true king. As Blackwood was dragged away, Kieran collapsed to one knee. The poison was stronger than they'd thought. Luna's healing had slowed it, but couldn't stop it entirely. "The moon water," Luna called out desperately. "We need—" "Gone," Mira said grimly. "Used on the shadow wolves." The crowd pressed closer, murmuring with concern. Their king, the king they'd thought lost, was dying before their eyes. "There is another way," Mira said quietly, kneeling beside them. "But it requires a choice from both of you." "What choice?" Luna demanded. "The mate bond. True mates, not arranged, not forced, but chosen. If the bond is real, if the choice is pure, it can burn out any poison." "Fairy tales," someone scoffed. "No," Kieran said weakly, his golden eyes finding Luna's. "Not fairy tales. Truth." He reached up, touching her cheek. "From the moment you took my hand, my wolf knew. But I wanted you to choose freely, without the crown's influence. Luna's river stone pendant pulsed with warm light. And I chose a vagrant with muddy boots who defended an Omega's right to choose. I chose the man, not the king. Then choose again, Mira urged. Both of you, here, before witnesses, not as king and subject, but as equals. Kieran struggled to stand, Luna supporting him. Black veins were spreading up his neck, but his voice remained clear. I, Kieran Silverthrone, choose you, Luna. Not as my subject, not as my savior, but as my equal, my partner, my mate. I offer you not just my crown, but my truth, flawed, broken, but yours if you'll have it. Luna's eyes filled with tears. I, Luna of Elderwood, choose you, Kieran. Not for your throne, not for your power, but for the man who hid himself to find something real. I offer you my strength, my healing, my heart, not in submission, but in partnership. Their words rang with sincerity that even the skeptics couldn't deny. Luna's pendant blazed with light, and she understood. It hadn't just shown truth, it had been waiting for this moment, for truth to be spoken. They kissed, and power erupted around them, not dark like Blackwood's magic, but warm and golden, spreading through the grove like sunrise. The mate bond blazed to life, visible to all, a golden thread connecting their souls. The poison in Kieran's system met the combined life force of true mates and burned away like shadow before light. But more than that, the bond spread outward, touching every wolf in the grove. For one moment, they all felt it, the connection between all wolves, the truth that rank was just an illusion. When the light faded, both Kieran and Luna stood transformed. Gold now flecked her green eyes. Her simple dress had become a gown of silver and gold. His common clothes had transformed into royal attire, but simpler than before, meant for working, not just ruling. "Your Majesty," someone called out, beginning to kneel. "No," Kieran said firmly. "No more kneeling. If you accept me as your king, accept me as I am, someone who learns, who listens, who leads beside you, not above you. And I stand with him," Luna added, "not as a queen above you, but as a healer among you. Together, we'll rebuild what corruption destroyed." Sarah stepped forward first. "I lost my sister to the old way. I choose the new." Marcus, the drunk from the ritual, stepped forward next. "I mocked you, called you nothing. But you showed us what real strength looks like, defending those who need it, standing for truth even when it costs everything." One by one, others stepped forward, not kneeling, but standing tall, choosing. "What of me?" Aldrich asked from where he knelt, still compelled by truth. "I murdered innocents." "You were a weapon," Luna said with surprising compassion. "Wielded by your uncle, shaped by a corrupt system. The question is, what will you choose to be now?" "I want to atone," Aldrich said, tears streaming down his face, "if that's possible." "Redemption is always possible," Kieran said, "for those willing to work for it. You'll face justice, but also the chance to heal the wounds you created." As the sun climbed higher, the sacred grove witnessed something unprecedented. A kingdom reborn not through violence but through choice. A king who'd hidden to find truth. An Omega who'd chosen a nobody and discovered a somebody. "The autumn mating ritual brought unexpected matches this year," Mira said with a knowing smile. "A king found his queen. A kingdom found its heart. And we all found that the greatest power isn't in ruling over others. It's in standing beside them." Kieran took Luna's hand, raising it high. "The old kingdom dies today. What we build together starts now. The crowd didn't cheer for their king. They cheered for their future, one where every wolf mattered, where truth conquered fear, where love transcended rank. The king in disguise had been mocked at the mating ritual, but an Omega had offered him her hand, and in doing so, had offered the entire kingdom a new beginning. 6 months later, the throne room barely resembled its former self. Where once a single throne sat elevated above all, now 2 seats stood side by side, at the same level as the council chairs that formed a circle. The walls, once hung with portraits of kings alone, now showed the history of all wolves, every rank, every profession, every life that built the kingdom. Luna sat reviewing healing center proposals. Her crown a simple band of silver and gold, metal donated by citizens who wanted to forge something new together. Her hand rested on her swelling belly, where new life grew. The new laws passed unanimously, Kieran announced, entering with genuine joy. Every wolf has equal voice in their local councils. Omegas can hold any position, including Alpha Prime. And Blackwood confessed everything. 17 murders over 5 years. The families chose his sentence, not death, but life spent in service to those he wronged. He tends the graves now, maintaining the memorial garden. It was more mercy than he deserved, but the new kingdom was built on healing, not vengeance. News from Aldrich? Luna asked. His work with the southern shamans is progressing. He's helped identify 3 other corrupt alphas who were following Blackwood's methods. Each one will face truth essence and justice. A knock interrupted them. Mira entered, moving slowly but still sharp-eyed. "Your Majesties?" she said with that familiar grin that made the title sound like an inside joke. "There's someone here about the new mating rituals." Behind her, a young Omega entered nervously, one of many who'd come forward since the changes began. "Your Majesty," the girl began, then stopped. "I'm sorry. Which one do I address?" "Either," Luna said warmly. "Or both. We speak as one." "I wanted to propose changes to the ritual structure," the girl said, gaining confidence. "No more displays where Omegas perform for Alphas. Instead, everyone mingles equally. Let connections form naturally." "I love it," Kieran said immediately. "Draw up the proposal. We'll implement it for the spring ritual." As the girl left, beaming, Kieran caught Luna's eye. They'd had this same conversation with dozens of citizens, each one bringing ideas that would have been dismissed under the old system. That evening, they stood on the balcony overlooking the capital. The market district, once divided by rank, now buzzed with mixed crowds. Alphas and Omegas worked side by side. Children played together regardless of their designation. "No regrets?" Luna asked, her hand finding his. "Only one," Kieran admitted. "What's that?" "That it took me 3 years to find the courage to take off my crown and find you." Luna laughed, the sound bright as starlight. "Well, good thing I was patient enough to wait for a muddy vagrant to ask me to dance. Good thing you were brave enough to say yes." Her river stone pendant, now set into her crown, pulsed with warm light, a reminder that truth had brought them together. "The old stories say true mates are destiny," Luna mused, "that the moon goddess determines who belongs together." "What do you think?" Kieran asked. "I think we make our own destiny. I chose you, not because some goddess declared it, but because when everyone mocked you, you still stood tall. When you could have revealed yourself as king to win, you stayed as Kai to protect others from the truth's danger. And you chose a nobody." "I chose somebody," Luna corrected. Someone who just hadn't figured out who he was yet. A messenger arrived with news from the borders. 3 neighboring kingdoms had sent envoys, curious about the radical changes they had heard about. Kingdoms where omegas were still property, where alphas ruled through fear. Change is spreading, Kieran noted. Good, Luna said firmly. Let them see what's possible when power serves instead of suppresses. As the moon rose full and bright, they stood together, not as king and queen above their people, but as partners in building something unprecedented. A kingdom where rank didn't determine worth, where love transcended tradition, where truth conquered fear. Marcus, now head of the Citizen Council, had said it best at their coronation. You went to that mating ritual as a king in disguise, got mocked for being nothing, and found everything. That's the kingdom we're building, one where anyone who seems like nothing might be everything if we just give them the chance. The autumn mating ritual had become legend, retold in taverns and halls across the land. But Luna and Kieran knew the truth was simpler than the stories. Sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with grand gestures or perfect meetings. Sometimes they begin with muddy boots, a mocking crowd, and one person brave enough to offer their hand to someone everyone else has dismissed. And sometimes that single offered hand can transform not just 2 lives, but an entire kingdom. The end